Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Tuesday. This is Let's Talk Tropics here, and we are at noon. Hopefully, you've had a great start to your Tuesday. We've got 92L that we're continuing to watch out in the Atlantic. It has not gotten itself up to a tropical depression yet. It is still battling some dry air, maybe a little bit of Saharan dust, but we've got another tropical wave that's coming off of the African coast, and that has a low end chance for some development down the road. And we're going to look at some of the extended forecasts, some of the Eurotropical cyclone development stuff that's showing some increased activity coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Now, hurricane season is not over yet. It doesn't officially end until November the 30th, but here along the Gulf Coast, we usually need to keep our eye out all the way through the month of October, and like 2024 was, we had to go about halfway through November before we could really start to relax. But we got a lot of sunshine out there, just one or two clouds, that's about it. Temperature hovering at 88 degrees, feels more like 91. Dew point at 67, humidity 50%. So it is relatively dry out there, but it is a little more muggy than what we were seeing late last week. Taking a look at the radar, we've got nothing going on, at least locally, but when we pull up the radar out here over Hammond, you can see there are a couple of showers there around Lake Maurepas and over toward Lake Pontchartrain. Those will continue to drift off toward the south. We did have at least a little bit of shower activity up here over southwestern Mississippi this morning, but it looks like there's a little more energy that's starting to develop right there. So I would expect some of those showers to continue to drop off toward the south. Back here in Acadiana, though, we've got plenty of sunshine out there. Again, just some hazy sunshine, and you can see there on the Ambassador Caffrey cam top right that skies are actually mostly sunny out there as a nice ridge of high pressure at the surface and aloft continues to stay in place, and that's pretty much been blocking anything from coming in our direction. A lot of these disturbances that are moving across the country, they kind of lift over like that and then kind of make their way off in that direction. So with that bit of a high pressure ridge over the Gulf Coast, that's been keeping things a little bit dry. This right here is part of a frontal boundary, low pressure area that's going to hug the coast, and this right down here looks a little bit interesting, but that is also part of a frontal boundary down to the south and an upper trough. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the show here, but a gorgeous day on Panama City Beach. Look at those waters and the sky. Orange Beach looking fine too. A little bit more breezy, it looks like, as the camera shakes there on top of the building, and we've got a zoomed in shot here of the Dauphin Island Bridge. Gorgeous day there too, with mostly sunny skies. Continuing our travels off to the west, this is over at Cocodrie. This is Lumcon, and this camera is also looking off toward the west. You can see mostly sunny skies with just a couple of clouds starting to pop up. And finally, we reach southeast Texas over toward Galveston, and a beautiful day there too. So lots of great weather here along the northern Gulf Coast. And if you are going to be doing some boating or you got some plans going to the coast, maybe some crabbing if you got the day off, the lakes and bays are going to be great with light winds, perhaps out of the northeast for a while, then out of the east at about 5 to 10 knots, and seas running about 1 to 2 feet. So let's go ahead and get into the analysis of what we've got going on right now. That old frontal boundary is still kind of draped down here, and what's left of a tropical wave and some upper level energy kind of coming in like this is creating pretty good showers and thunderstorms there in the Yucatan Channel. Fortunately, this is not tropical in nature, and nor do we expect anything tropical to develop. It will be producing some heavy downpours in the Gulf of Honduras, and that will drift westward toward Belize and the Yucatan. Right now, it looks like Nicaragua will probably escape most of the heavy rain. Same goes with El Salvador, but we also got a little bit of energy down here to the south along the Panamanian, Costa Rican coast, but a lot of this is just going to go ahead and drift off toward the west. And at this time, we're not expecting any tropical activity to form in the western part of the Caribbean. At the same time, got a tropical wave right here, more of an upper low that's a little bit farther to the north, stronger trade winds kind of drifting west with yet another tropical wave right about here. Nothing looking too interesting as far as any tropical development across the Caribbean Sea, so we're not expecting anything new to come there. So at least in our local waters, I call the local waters the Gulf and the Caribbean, we don't have too many worries out there right now. All of the action is out here in the Atlantic. We've got 92L, which is a broad area of low pressure, starting to see a little bit more of a circulation there at the surface along with that trough, but it is battling some dry air right now. We've got another tropical wave that's coming off the African coast, and that one also might have a little chance for some development here in the coming days. So really all we got for you is a couple of tropical waves in the central and far eastern part of the Caribbean, 92L, which likely will become a tropical depression later today or tomorrow, and then one more tropical wave that's there off the African coast. So 92L is what we're going to focus on today, but I also want you to remind you that there is another tropical wave out to the west, and it has a low-end chance for some development here over the next several days. So let's focus our attention here on 92L. There is the satellite imagery, and again, perhaps at the surface, we're starting to see a little bit of a circulation trying to develop, but it's still kind of an open trough, an open wave, and it's going to move off toward the west-northwest and continue out into the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean. There's kind of a look at the position, and if you want the coordinates, they're there on the left-hand side of your screen. 92L is at 13.4 north and 41.5 west, with winds at about 35 miles per hour. So here's the conglomerate of all of the hurricane models, hurricane-specific models. And where it is right now is well to the east of the Leeward and Windward Islands, but the forecast track moves it north, so avoiding the islands. That is good news for those folks that are out there, because I know they always get pretty nervous here during this part of the hurricane season. And the Euro Ensemble Suite, remember, this is not one final solution. This is the same forecast model run over and over and over again, with a few minor tweaks that are in there for what could possibly happen. And when you look at that, you get a little bit more of a spread as you go through time. So if we were to have a cone of uncertainty, it would most likely look like that based on the Euro Ensemble. Now, the Ensemble Suite here, this one only goes out to, I believe, 6 days or maybe up to 7. So it doesn't quite have as much information as the Euro or as the GFS Ensemble Suite. So again, your black line is kind of your final solution here with a curve off toward the northeast. And then over here and over here, those are your uncertainties. So you got a lot of uncertainty after about day 4 going out there. But again, most of the computer models are keeping this away from land, not just the Caribbean islands, but also the Bahamas, and it looks like the East Coast might be spared from this as well. Intensity forecast, though, again, this has been battling some dry air, and there's some wind shear that's out there too. So the models going out 3 days barely get this out of a moderate tropical storm status. And then after maybe 3 or 4 days, a few of the models drag this up to a Category 1 hurricane, one there kind of off the charts. But that's kind of the anomaly among the rest of the computer models. So I would guess here, based on this information, that really for the next several days, if we're going to have a named storm, and the next name on the list, by the way, is Gabrielle, most likely it's going to be a tropical depression, and some of our deterministic models have been showing that here over the past several days. So let's look at some of the models and kind of explain why 92L is having a little bit of an issue. There's moisture directly around it, but you can see there's a lot of dry air up here, and there's a lot of dry air down to the south, and there's even some dry air in the path of 92L. So that's why it's been kind of struggling the last couple of days. And with the Euro model, you can see that dry air takes even more space around there, even though you're starting to see some slow development. So we've worked our way here to Friday of this week, where the tropical depression or tropical storm will pass north of the Windward Islands. And then as we finish the weekend, you're going to see that ridge of high pressure and that drier air rapidly moving out into the Atlantic. And then what happens is it starts to tug on that and should pull it off toward the northeast. You're also seeing some strengthening here as we go into the early part of next week. So this particular model here is a week from today. And with the millibars dropping down to 953, we might be talking about a hurricane. And remember, if it does strengthen, the stronger the storm system is, the more likely it's going to get caught up in some of these westerlies. as it moves off toward the north. Because remember, as a developing hurricane kind of just has its circulation at the surface, but the stronger it gets, the higher it builds, and those mid-levels of the atmosphere, what's going on here, can actually tug on this a little bit easier if it is a stronger storm versus a weaker storm. So as we go ahead and continue to take this out to the 10-day period of the Euro, you can see that it moves way out to sea, and then that secondary wave that's coming off the African coast looks to be following in its footsteps. Let's go over to the GFS rather, and we'll go ahead and rewind this back to today. And again, 92L is out here surrounded by its moisture, but again, surrounded as well with a lot of dry air. So that's what it's going to battle for the next couple of days. And the GFS is actually a little bit weaker, at least initially here, as it moves off toward the northeast. But it does seem to get a little bit stronger, kind of like what the Euro is suggesting here by the time we get to about a week from today. So now you're starting to see possibly a stronger tropical storm or a hurricane. And then, of course, there's our next wave a little bit farther off toward the east. So let's go ahead and pull this. So again, the GFS, just like the Euro, has got a pretty sharp turn off toward the northeast. And there is our 10-day limit right there. And you can see that that other tropical wave is still making its way across the Atlantic. Hopefully that one's going to follow in its footsteps and get picked up and turned back out to sea. Let's just for fun look at the Canadian and also the icon model here in just a little bit. We'll just kind of fast forward this one along. Two tropical waves, most of them getting pulled northward and wrapping around that ridge of high pressure. So it looks like on this one, both tropical waves do the same as what the Euro and the GFS is suggesting. And finally, we'll go back here to the icon, which doesn't give us the PWatts to really show us how much dry air is entrenched around these systems rather. And the icon, very, very similar, a little bit closer to the islands compared to what the GFS and the Euro is showing. But out to day 7, it is starting to make more of a turn. So that is still a bit of the anomaly. It's a little bit farther to the west compared to the other models, and we're also still going to watch that other tropical wave down toward the south. So the next thing I want to get into is the future. And hurricane season goes until September the 30th. So we still have, half of September, all of October, all of November. Most of the time, November is not a big deal along the Gulf Coast. It's really September, October. And the tropical cyclone strike probabilities. Now, this is any tropical cyclone. So this could be a hurricane. This could be a tropical storm. This could also be a tropical depression. And looking at the next week or so, you can see that it's almost certain that we're going to have a tropical system out here in the Atlantic. That's where 92L is right now. But you see this week, really, we don't have anything out here over the Gulf waters. But I want to go forward just a little bit here, just to give you an idea of what some of the future forecasts are showing. So this is the following week. Now you're starting to see a little bit more hotness there in the Gulf waters. Let's go the following week. And now we're starting to get into the first month of October. And this is what I've been talking about, is maybe that Central American gyre might start up again here over Central America. And what that is, and I got a description in the a link to the description in a link in the description below if you want to click that and find out more information about the Central American gyre. But what it is kind of a broad area of low pressure. It's very similar to what we see out in the Atlantic where we have the Bermuda High. But this low pressure area is very prevalent at the beginning of the hurricane season and also at the end of the hurricane season. And you get disturbances that will kind of rotate around that low, and sometimes you can get a tropical system to fire up. So that's what we're going to be a little more concerned about here over the next few weeks. Rather than looking way out here in the Atlantic, we'll probably be focusing more of our attention a little bit closer to home. So remember, with those water temperatures being so high there over the Gulf and the Western Caribbean, and so far above normal, any tropical system that wants to work into this particular area would have a significant chance for development because of the water temperatures and the high heat potential. Now, of course, you have to still have the right atmospheric conditions, but when you've got these warm water temperatures and that high heat content there over the western part of the Caribbean, the last thing you want to do is get something to kind of whip up in this particular area, because it can tap into that high octane fuel of the Gulf and Caribbean waters, and you can have a pretty strong storm in a very short period of time. Global Tropics Hazard Outlook, looking at week 2 and week 3, which is now next week and the following week. We are going to be getting another update on this afternoon, so I'll be able to bring it back to you tomorrow. But the next 2 weeks is still showing maybe some of that Central American gyre action going there over the western part of the Caribbean. Let's move along. And again, we're kind of behind schedule when it comes to an average hurricane season, and that's perfectly fine with me. If the forecasts are the preseason forecasts of 16 named storms are wrong, of course, we're all going to be happy about that, especially if nothing comes in our direction. But we've only got 6 under our belt so far, and as you see there on that second column, we should be up to about 9 named storms by the time we reach September the 16th, which is today. And we should also be on our 4th hurricane. We've only had 1. That was Hurricane Aaron back in, early August? And usually we've had 2 major hurricanes by, let's say, later this week, but we've only had 1. And again, that was Hurricane Aaron. Aaron, our only hurricane so far, and it was a Category 5 for a while. So we are a little bit behind, but we can quickly make that up, especially in the next few weeks when things start to get a little more active over the Caribbean as well as the southern part of the Gulf. So that's why I remind you not to let your guard down just yet. And you can be hurricane ready, and you can do a lot of these things right now. And in fact, some of this hurricane stuff, because of such a slow season, I wouldn't be surprised if some of this stuff is on sale now at some of the stores. But you still need to have these stockpiled. And you know what? If we don't get any hurricanes, maybe we're going to have another storm system come through with severe weather. Maybe we'll get some more winter weather that could perhaps knock out the power too. So it's always good to have this stuff, regardless if it's a hurricane, a tropical storm, or some other kind of weather event. But you can grab batteries and flashlights and water and non-perishable foods. Those are readily available in all the stores right now, and as I said, probably on sale. Make sure your first aid kit is topped off and know how much medicine you have and where you would get medicine if you had to evacuate. Personal hygiene and all kinds of cleaners are always good to have on hand. Double that up, though, during hurricane season. Take your IDs, your insurance, your important papers, and take pictures of those with your phone. Save them as digital. And, of course, it's always good to have a basic tool set, entertainment for the kids, and everything that you would need for your pets in case we get in the crosshairs of a tropical system. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications. Remember, you can hear my forecast each and every day on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And on select days, I'll be at WBRZ Channel 2. I was on TuneIn this morning from 5 to 9, but not going to be back over there until Sunday. We have a Sunday morning show at 9 a.m., so I hope you'll join us for that. And don't forget to follow my social media pages both on Facebook and X. And thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Have yourself a great Tuesday, and I'll see you for Acadiana Weather Today on Wednesday morning.